how do you do, Your Majesty? Shake hand with him too. And to give you a story, at one of the functions, I was shaking hands like this. And my son was also in that group. He was a photographer. He took a picture of that. And it turned out a very nice picture of me and the Sultan. It's actually Agong, just the two of us. And very nice picture. So I framed it up and sent it to my father. I said, and I didn't say anything, I just sent it to my father. Then 2 months later, we visited my father. And I told my wife, watch it. When we get home, my picture is up in the living room there for everybody to see. Frame. My son and the Sultan. So we went home, excited, no picture on the wall. So after looking around, maybe they still haven't unwrapped it. Didn't see anything. So finally, after 3-4 days, I got curious. I said, do you remember a picture I sent to you? So my mother came in horror. Never do that again. I said, you never look in the Sultan eye to eye. And I was talking to him, the picture of me was me and the Agong shaking hands, and I was pointing something as if I pointed the Agong like this. Yada. So what I thought was to be a nice picture of me, one human being to another, to my parents, that was height of insult. You know. So that's the. But to me, it's very comfortable, and he was very comfortable with me. I mean, he talked to me for a long time, so that I knew he was not comfortable. He was comfortable. Otherwise, he'd just get out, you peasant. So Dua is comfortable. The only thing I don't like about the sultans in Malaysia, because they set a bad example. In my book, I mentioned about the sultan syndrome. Because the sultan is the very top there. And the top, so we have in our culture now a symbol, the guy at the top is a figurehead, not the chief executive. It's a figurehead. So in our culture right now, when Malays get to be the top, they want to be sultan. They don't want to work anymore. They want to play golf. They want to meet the other sultan. So that's the bad example. But here, the CEO is the hardest. Everything is blamed on him. But in Malaysia, we don't. We all become sultan. And that's the part I don't like. It's the example of the status, the role model of the sultan. And the sultan doesn't work. It's just a figurehead. And we don't want Malays to be average Malays to be figurehead. We want average Malays to work hard. You become the CEO of Tenaga Nasional, you work hard for Tenaga Nasional. Don't just. That's not the time for you to relax and play golf. You make sure that the stations are working. The Sultan syndrome, that's what I mentioned in one of my books about that. And that's what I don't like. It gives you a bad example. And not only that, at the worst level, it gives crisis to me every time I meet one of them. Should I sembah or not sembah? How many of you are comfortable not sembah Sultan?
Never met one.
No, if you meet the Sultan, well, if you are in Malaysia, in fact, one of them I met in Malaysia, quite by accident. Actually, he wanted to meet my wife, but he can't meet my wife until he invited me together. Because, so he was inviting me, and then I get a crisis. I asked him, and this Sultan is known for banging people who don't pay respect. So I talked to a few people, talked to all the Malays down there, said, oh, you must be about this Sultan's tradition. Then I talked to a few people, I said, well, he's quite Western. You be yourself. So again, crisis. But the last minute, I did what is comfortable for me. I said, how do you do, Your Highness? And it went very well. But if I tried to sembah, in fact, that particular Sultan, after we talked to him, said, I get the impression he enjoyed talking to me. Because, in fact, he told me that this is the few occasions he can talk to Malay, person to person. When he talked to his Menteri Besar, he said, between sembah and batik and all that, I can't get anything going. He said, this is the first time I can actually talk one-on-one. I can express. He was telling, criticize his Menteri Besar in front of me. So he must be comfortable talking to me. And because he talked one-on-one. So when we sembah people, we are putting a relationship right there. When we call the Sultan Sultan called himself Beta and you call yourself Pate, you already established relationship there.
Opposite the better is worse.
More better.
Well, growing up in Johor, I've never had any negative experience with a wonderful Sultan, right? All right, seriously. There's a movie called Monty Python's The Holy Grail. How many of you watched that? Go home and check the video out. And there's one scene where he came down from in search of Camelot. He was talking to some peasants who are working on the field and talking about the divine right of kings. So watch that, and then it's fun, but it just really talks about what actually is happening in terms of that. Dr. Bakri said that a lot of the times when human beings, evolution of human beings, we create classes of people.
Yeah.
And these classes of people will control the knowledge, the language itself. Language can be a good source of, a good gatekeeping tool.
That's right.
Right? Whether you all try getting a financial analyst and a medical doctor sit together and talk about things in their own language. You see two radically different terms and everything. But language that has evolved so that only a few people can use the archaic language, and the people down there who do not have the power has to bow down to the people with that language, that will determine how much the society has progress. What is Daulat? What concept is that? Read up and understand the evolution of this whole idea of divine right of kings. Is a king the representation of God on earth? Maybe in some Western Middle Age feudalism. Is a sultan or the sultan a Khalifah? Allah di bumi. And how does he maintain that? Again, language. A lot of time, court languages are derived out of a Sanskrit word, Hindu-Buddhist tradition. Right? Many of the things that we use in court are a result of the tradition that has been. But those things are still used so that only certain people get access to that environment, and some people will be relegated to be outside of that. A society that is, evolving to be, to be socially equal will bridge the gap between this unequal exchange of social messages. It's easy to talk to Americans. It's I and you.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
You don't say that your highness or your lowliness.
Take better, but take better.
But to speak to people of different cultures, you have to use so many layers of language. Ampun what? Forgive me for what?
Pate memohon deraka.
Yeah. Even to disagree. To me to disagree, you disagree. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, King. I disagree with you. But why add many layers of it? But again, those things are social evolution of things. That is why America is a nation that doesn't have to deal with this, because they fought against King George. They deposed King George. They revolted against King George in England, because Britain was controlling the resources in America, and taxing the people even though they were not represented in British Parliament. So that's why the American Revolution was a result of taxation without representation. Right? The original 13 colonies refused to pay taxes, right? But they have no history of feudalism. But unfortunately, they deposed King George, but they got George Bush.